Those are the visuals that you're watching on your screens of how the rainfall is shaping up. Do take note of the flashes as well, because the BMC talking about how they will be reviewing the situation when it comes to the rainfall. There's 300 mm of rainfall at various places, and this is, remember, taken place in the last 6 hours. So from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. there's been heavy rains in a lot of lower-lying areas, and there's been waterlogging, disruption due to the train services as well, and there's a warning of a heavy rain expected today. By the way, it's a holiday for the first session declared for all BMC, government and private schools. This is in Mumbai. The decision for the next session will be announced after reviewing the situation, and that's what you're seeing across the visuals on your screen. Heavy rains expected in order to avoid inconvenience to students. A holiday for the first session has been declared.
Yeah, this entire season we were saying that the month of June has gone by and we haven't seen heavy rainfall in Mumbai. The lake levels were below the mark of 15%. That was a worrying sign. So the water gods have finally heard us. But they heard us in a matter of 6 hours, and 300 mm rainfall, Nikunj, in a matter of 6 hours that we have seen. And it's not done yet. Very heavy rainfall expected further today.
Well, that's monsoon and that's Mumbai.
That's your welcome back.
Welcome gift actually, yes.
No, you don't want such a welcome back. Where I was traveling also, it was rain.
Yeah.
And when I've come back, it's rain. So sometimes you want dry days.
So you are the one who's carrying rain
with you.
along with you. You are the one to blame for today's rain, is it?
I hope I go to rural part where it rains more. But no, you know, that's Bombay for you guys. I mean, when it rains, it pours, and that's the way it is. What you want to see are days. I mean, look, having lived in Mumbai for almost 2 decades now, this is something which you're used to. Every year we talk about the fact that when it rains, it pours and the infrastructure collapses. We are talking about India moving towards a developed market now by 2047. That's what the Prime Minister is working on. So in that, Mumbai, or the city of Mumbai, will play a very large role. But when monsoon has just about started, you want to see not a stress on infrastructure, not a collapse here and there. You really want to see a smooth transition which is happening. But welcome to Mumbai. It's monsoon 2024 and it is July again, and like I said, when it rains, it pours.
Well, yes, and the infrastructure has collapsed a bit, but all kudos to BMC and all the workers there. They are in full gear out on the roads, and hopefully the situation will normalize in a matter of few hours. But let's see what it posed today for the market, because the bulls have been definitely having a good time of late. But the big question is, how long will it sustain? Because we're also dealing with the biggest news flow that the budget date is finally out. In that context, last week moves are a bit, subdued, because of course Nasdaq saw a massive rally of almost 3.5%. S&P 500 was up 2%. Even the other indices were also in the green, but Nifty in context to that was down about 1%. And the reason was that some of the banking names came under pressure by the end of the week. So HDFC Bank, despite that one-day move on account of the FTSE rejig, was down by the end of the week on account of the pressure that we saw in the Q1 miss coming in from the banks. And even mid-cap, small-cap managed to outperform, with small-cap index being up 3.3%. And Nikunj, that's a bit of a curious case, right? So we have been talking about how it's going to be large caps who are going to come back. It's the mid cap and the small cap space which is frothy. But if you look at the stock prices, it's mid cap and small cap which continue to lead the rally.
See, first let's look at global markets. I think global markets are in extremely sweet spot. So while we may look at India in isolation and say, okay, you know, India is going through a great bull market, but just compare that and let's do that YTD comparison. We haven't done that in a while. Let's compare Nasdaq with Nasdaq is the performing market and India is the other performing market. So let's compare Nasdaq, S&P with our good old Nifty or the Sensex, whichever benchmark comes in first. And let's do a YTD comparison. So Nasdaq in this year is appreciated by about 25%. S&P, again, double-digit gains. That is not something which you've seen. That is something which is not getting unnoticed. So if you compare India with global markets, and I'm talking about the performing global markets, Indian markets in a sense have not done as well as what global markets have done. So before we think that it is something special which is only unique to India, I guess it's a very strong global phenomenon which is at play and which is ensuring that things are moving in the right direction. Secondly, let's look at the ego. YTD change, Nasdaq 25%. Nifty is up 12%. So there's a stark difference in the way how Nasdaq has moved and how Nifty has moved. So directionally we are moving higher, but it's it's the global market which I think, at least the performing markets, are outperforming massively. Second, last week's price action. Last week's price action, again clearly is an indication of whether it is FOMO, whether it is excitement, whether it is participation, and I would also use the word euphoria perhaps in some key pockets. But the lower you go down the ladder, higher was the excitement, which is from large cap to mid cap to small cap, and small cap to real, tiny toons and the SME stocks. The price appreciation, I guess, is strong. So we are going through that phase of the market where the brute force of liquidity is so strong that the bulls cannot put a foot wrong. While there is nothing new in the system which will excite or generate this kind of a momentum, I guess markets have been extremely resilient. And that's been the global phenomenon also. Imagine you are in the middle of an election cycle. The election cycle in UK has just about got over. US election cycle, you don't know which way things would move, especially after what's happening in the Democrat versus Republican camp. So there is uncertainty, and normally markets, they get nervous ahead of this uncertainty, and right now markets are robust. So it's the bent of risk appetite in the global market which is important, which is ensuring that the flows into emerging markets remain strong. And then I guess the local crowd is either desperate, or there is FOMO, or there is excitement. The smaller you go, the higher the level of activity and higher the price changes. So if you look at the market from the prism of Nifty, yawn, it's boring. The minute you look at the small and mid cap stocks, I guess everybody's feeling happy because one or the other stock in everyone's portfolio is hitting a new high. So it's a market which is making everybody happy.
Yeah, 100%. When people are checking their portfolio, there is some one name or the other that does pop out that they say, phew, at least that one's doing quite well. But we're talking about uncertainty, and then there's certainty, at least when it comes to the highly anticipated union budget, and that is going to be presented on the 23rd of July. Do remember that the President approved the proposal to summon both the houses of Parliament between the 22nd of July to the 12th of August, and this is going to be the first budget that will be presented by the Narendra Modi-led government since it has been re-elected for a record third time this year, Nikunj.
That is important. And the reason why that is important is, apart from just being the first budget of the new government, it's the timing of the budget is crucial, given that there is enough and more chatter around where the options market should move, how this really could be the stage where there could be a change in terms of long-term versus short-term, capital gain taxes. So from a market standpoint, this budget will set the tone for next 5 years. Second, will there be a change in taxes, especially personal taxes? Directionally, will we get a hint in this budget for the next 5 years? Okay, this is where personal taxes would move. And will there be, and since equity market has been enjoying a special status in terms of taxation structure, will that be diluted? So now the narrative and conversation would again go back to what to expect, what is the buzz, and how markets in a sense should move ahead of the budget. Bear in mind, this year we have two budgets. One budget was the interim budget, which was there in Jan. This is the second budget. This financial year also will actually have two budgets. That's how markets are moved, 1 week after the budget, 1 week before the budget. Over the years, if you look at the budget move, it has actually got diluted. But given that this is the first budget, and this is a budget where, post-COVID, I guess expectations this time are very high in terms of the roadmap, in terms of the decision on long-term options, all that I think will keep the market guessing. So a talking point now for next couple of days, at least for next good 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks would be, budget mein kya ho sakta hai? Trust me, that narrative will change.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.